Thank you very much, everybody. It's an honor to have Bibi and Sarah with us, friends of mine for a long time, and we had a tremendous success together. And I think it will only go on to be even greater success in the future. So it's really nice to have you at the White House. It's nothing like the White House, and it's great to have you both and all of your wonderful people around. We've worked together for a long time, and we've done well together. We had a great time. I would say it's a lot of work, but we had a great result recently, and we're going to have a lot of great results. So it's great to have you. Thank you very much.
I want to express the appreciation and admiration not only of all Israelis, but of the Jewish people and many, many admirers around the world for your leadership of the free world, your leadership of a just cause, and the pursuit of peace and security that you are leading in many lands, but now especially in the Middle East. We have great opportunities. The President has an extraordinary team, and I think our teams together make an extraordinary combination to meet challenges and seize opportunities. The President has already realized great opportunities. He forged the Abraham Accords. He's forging peace as we speak, in one country and one region after the other. So I want to present to you, Mr. President, the letter I sent to the Nobel Prize Committee. It's nominating you for the Peace Prize, which is well deserved. And you should get it.
Thank you very much. This I didn't know. Wow. Thank you very much. Coming from you in particular, this is very meaningful. Thank you very much, Bibi.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Kevork Almassian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's live streaming. I appreciate you all, whether you're watching the stream on YouTube, on Rumble, or on Ganjin Word. And I'm very, very happy today to have with me our friend Nick from Revolutionary Blackout Network. His YouTube channel is in the description below, guys. He's also commenting on the current affairs and especially what is going on in the US and the world, which is very important, and he's based in the US, and I would like to have a chat with him. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey, man, I'm great. It's great to be on your channel, finally, Kevork. I told you on RBN before, I'm a big supporter of your work. As an American who tried to deprogram my mind from American propaganda, I have to completely toss all Western sources on Syria. So that's why I found your account on X a while ago. I've been following you. And I love and you're like one of the sources I would use on Syria. Like whenever I would talk about Syria and why Jelani is actually a Muslim Zionist. We can talk about that later. And why the Syrian revolution was a Zionist op. It was people like you who knew a lot about Syria, who is a great source for anti-imperialists in the United States. I feel like a lot of people internationally. Actually, you don't have to take it easy on Americans, but you have to understand that there's the giant propaganda wall. You know what I mean? You don't have to take it easy on us. We should be better, but there's very hard to find sources that would tell the truth about Syria. You know what I mean? It's very hard to find sources to tell the truth about Iraq, Lebanon, the Middle East in general. So that's why this channel was actually very valuable for Americans like me to get real information in the Middle East. So that's why it's great to be here.
First of all, I followed you first on X, just also for the audience to know. And I've been trying to catch his attention, guys, for a few weeks. And he posts stuff, and I comment. I was like, he didn't follow me yet back. You know, let's catch his attention more because I love what he does. And the good thing is, I and yourself, if we take the mainstream, what they say, the spectrum of politics, left and right, I don't believe in this at all. But if we take it, we stand in different positions on the spectrum, but we agree on the principles, you know, and this is very, very important. And especially when you follow someone and you see when this person is coming from a genuine position. And I can feel it. I just have these sensors in me, which when someone is honest and genuine, whether he is right or left or center, I don't give any Fs about people's this right or left. I just see if this person is genuine. Probably this person also has a journey in his life and he's passing through his learning curve. So why would I judge someone based on what the mainstream press calls, oh, this is a far right, this is a far left? No, those things really do not make any sense for me. And but what makes sense, perfectly sense, when you watch a video like this for Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, this was from Bibi's visit to the United States. Bibi, who is accused of committing a genocide, is nominating Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize. It can't be more Orwellian like this. But you live in the United States. How blessed do you feel? How grateful do you feel for having a great ally like Israel that we have, the Americans have to protect at all costs?
Yeah, and I'll get that very soon. Regarding your comment about genuine people in the United States, and I was shocked by this. I learned a very harsh lesson from the Bernie campaign because I'm legitimate. Like, to me, there's no reason for me to do this unless I'm telling you exactly what's on my mind. Like, if I'm being fake, there's no reason for me to do this. I can just sell cars like I used to do. So that's why I'm willing to have conversations with people who I believe are genuine, because that's so hard to find in American politics. Now, to the Netanyahu thing, what we saw with President Trump and Netanyahu is probably one of the greatest acts of high treason committed by an American president. That we have a guy who is literally a wanted war criminal who's given the red carpet treatment in Washington, D.C. All the Washington politicians are fawning over him. I believe this alone in a rational society should spark a revolution for you to support a hostile state, because I'm trying to sell to Americans that Israel is a hostile state. The current biggest threat to freedoms that we enjoy in the West, for example, is Netanyahu that is convincing Donald Trump and MAGA to crack down on the free speech rights of Americans because we're calling out his genocidal war. The fact that the pro-life movement, now I can go so many different ways on this story, Kevork. The pro-life movement supporting someone who burned babies alive. I thought you guys care about children. This is the highest act of treason. Which is why I'm at the point now where I can't. There's no relationships. That Zionists, there's no breaking bread with them. They are a parasite. They are a leech on our society. And seeing this war criminal walk in and being treated like a god should be enough to radicalize everyone. And it's crazy to me that it's not. Like, for example, I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to explain to you guys why Trump and the MAGA lobby, and I have a hotspot video coming out today about this, they're purposely trying to create an international order where Zionists are completely lawless, a lawless Zionist international order. They were attacking Lula in Brazil. Like, MAGA right is pretending they're going after Brazil for cracking down on free speech. Even though Brazil online censorship, their internet rules, is standard across the world in terms of how most countries treat their internet. Brazil is standard in terms of social media regulation. But Donald Trump is threatening a 50% tariff on Brazil because they're going after Jair Bolsonaro and his corruption. Why is Donald Trump getting involved in this? He's getting involved in this because Lula called out Israel for committing a Holocaust in Gaza and compared Benjamin Netanyahu to Hitler. Compared to Jair Bolsonaro, who waved the Israeli flag and is a diehard Zionist. So the point I am making here is that what Donald Trump and MAGA is doing is extremely nefarious, and it must be called out, where they're creating this international rules-based order that is based on Jewish supremacy, that people like Benjamin Netanyahu and leaders of Israel can do whatever they want. And that's why I can speak on this meeting. I'm Pastor, you can work. I can speak on this all day because it's very infuriating. is
I
why
totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you on this point that we are creating a lawless. It's already there. Like it's not like we're moving to a lawless jungle. And I
Yeah, you're
always
right.
say in the jungle,
right.
there are better rules because in the jungle the animals do not kill each other for fun. And do not kill each other for example, to build a building that Trump is dreaming of building some resource in the Gaza Strip and for gas pipelines, etc. But our human beings, they are committing this type of atrocities. Like there is not one recorded incident of animals committing genocide against each other the way they're killing Palestinians. And we laugh about it because of the absurdity of the matter, but we are heading to a very dystopian future where Palestinians are today's victims. Tomorrow, they're going to be other people that probably today either silent or even supportive of this Zionist onslaught against the Palestinians. And what really bothers me about this, my friend, is during the COVID times, if you remember, many people on the left fell for the government narrative, right? So yeah. I found myself naturally, let's say, on the people who were pushing against it, and they start calling, oh, you're a right wing, right? But then when the Gaza onslaught started, you see those many of these right-wing talking heads who said we cannot follow these government diktats because they harm the children. They harm kids' psychology. You remember those days? And now kids are being blown up in front of our eyes daily, and they either support it or they say nothing about it.
Yep. What other country in human history? I'm sure there may be a few that I slipped and missed. I'm sure there's probably some. But how many? Maybe a handful of societies in human history have systemic processes of raping people to death that is supported by the population.
Documented on video.
On video. I couldn't watch it. There's so much evidence of this. And you mentioned animals. Like, do animals do that? Like, is there a systemic is there animals that engage in mass rape against people who are violating their territory, for example?
Yeah.
Like,
for humiliation.
Israel's worse than the worst beast, the worst of the worst in humanity, based on what they have done. And they've changed humanity. I don't know a lot of people even realize what Israel has done. Not only have they completely set humanity backwards, because before the idea of bombing a hospital, it was like completely out of mind. Like, the idea that you would do that is crazy. Israel blew up so many hospitals, it doesn't even register on the Richter scale anymore.
Yep.
And then you have the United States who blew up a hospital in Yemen. Didn't register. I remember when I was a teenager, Barack Obama accidentally, well, quote unquote, accidentally, I gotta be very careful, accidentally bombed a hospital, and he went on an apology tour for like a week after that. It's there. I still remember it vividly because you rarely see the empire like do this kind of stuff, but they legitimately went on a PR tour because that's how bad it was for Obama bombing a hospital. Now it's commonplace. And another thing that Israel did to humanity, because I would say this unapologetically, when I saw the bombs come into Tel Aviv from Iran, I was ecstatic. Like, am I supposed to lie to you? Am I supposed to lie to people and say I wasn't excited to see Tel Aviv get bombed? If anyone tell you that who's an anti-Zionist, they are most likely lying. If not, they're a much better person than I am. Now, think about how many people were cheering on Tel Aviv being bombed. This is what the Zionists have done to us. This is what the Zionists do. I'm not condemning us for it. I'm just decrying Israel for reducing humanity to the point where we must see. I gotta be careful because I'm on your channel, not mine. But I would say we need to see something done about it.
There is a disclaimer. There is a disclaimer in the description. Don't worry about it. The opinions expressed by the guests represent them and do not necessarily reflect my opinion. I have to do it all the time because it brings me lots of headache also here. So you are free to say anything you want. This is your opinion, you know.
Yeah.
So I show the poker face now.
Yeah. I still be careful. I'm going to say what you want for Israel is a completely natural reaction. Once again, I'm going to be respectful for your channel. I think it's obvious the point I'm making. There's a certain solution I think needs to be had to a certain state that committed a genocide. And the consequences of that for a state that committed a genocide like Israel is that they shouldn't exist no more. Like, to me, the conversation around the two-state solution is absurd. That's why, I don't have any beef with Mamdani. You know what I mean? I'm not hating the guy. He's not Genocide Joe. But that's why it's hard. I'm not even excited. I can't get excited about Mamdani when he supports a two-state solution. That's where I'm at. That's how much my brain has been broken. How many dead babies does it take for you guys, for your brain to be broken? My brain is broken. If you advocate for a two-state solution, I'm not interested. Like, I'm literally turning off the second you talk about anti-Semitism laws, the second you talk about Israel has the right to defend itself like Bernie Sanders. Like, I'm not interested, because if in any rational society, any culture, and I'll use the raping Palestinian to death story as an example because one of the most rawest like stories that immediately wakes people up. If you believe that a country that systemically rapes people to death, and then the populists hold protests in order to defend the IDF's ability to rape people to death, your mind has been broken. You have been completely colonized by the West if you believe such a state deserves to exist. If you ask someone before Zionism, 100 years ago, does such a state deserve to exist? I promise you they will say no. So I'm not apologizing. I think there's an obvious solution to this. I think all IDF should be prosecuted. Because let's say you have your quote-unquote two-state solution. You're going to condemn Palestinians to live with these monsters? These monsters who chant death to Arabs? I've seen so many videos of Israelis explaining why they must kill Palestinian children because they have to kill the future of Arabs. And these Palestinian children are no different than demons. Are we supposed to condemn Palestinians to being neighbors with these people? But anyway, I guess we get on another tangent here. But that's what I think the two-state solution, and as an honest conversation, is just dead. I'm not mad at people, especially Palestinians, who advocate for it because they feel like there's no other option. But I think we should be advocating for the truth. Oh, I'm glad you pulled this up. Go ahead, Kevork. I'll let you present this. I'm glad you showed the story.
I was terrified by this. By the way, this is a survey and done by Hebrew University. It says a strong majority of Jewish Israelis indicate support for their government's deliberate ongoing war crimes of ethnic cleansing and genocide in Gaza. A poll released from Hebrew University in Jerusalem in early June reveals that roughly 75% of Jewish Israelis agree with the statement that there are no innocent people in Gaza, where, at least since October 7, there resided 1 million children. A report on the poll from the Israeli publication Haaretz revealed that 64% of the nation's overall citizenry agreed with the statement, while also stipulating that among Arab Israeli responders, 92% disagreed. Since 17.2% of Israeli citizens are Arab, the figure for Jewish Israelis equates to approximately 75%.
Literally insane. Everything that the Zionists tell you about Hamas, everything that they tell you about Hamas and the Palestinian people is straight up projection. Because I'm an American, I can tell you guys exactly what they say. The Zionists and these Christian Zionists, they tell Americans that Palestinians are brainwashed from a young age to hate Jews. It's the exact opposite. These Israelis, many of them are irredeemable. You have these Zionists who are brainwashed from a young age. You know, the same thing they tell us about Hamas, the same thing they tell us about Palestinians. They go through these religious schools and they are brainwashed from an early age to adopt Jewish supremacy and to hate Arabs. That's something that is extremely important for their society. So under a potential two-state solution, Palestinians are supposed to be neighbors with these people. And one thing I want to say, and we don't have to dive too much into it, but it's something that I've been exploring, because I do think it's very important for us to keep the issue of Israel-Palestine, an issue of settler colonialism and imperialism. But there also has to be a side conversation. And if you put back on me on, that's fine. But what is Judaism doing to these people? Like, at what point does the Jewish institutions, your ideologies question? Because even though I may have some disagreements with them, Dr. Cornel West is an example of a great Christian. You know what I mean? Even though I may not share these beliefs, I can respect Muslims who have amazing beliefs. I can respect Jewish people. I can respect religious people when their beliefs lead them to the best for humanity. But when I see an institution and an ideology that produces millions of genocidal monsters, are we not allowed to question what the hell they're teaching? Are we not allowed to question what the hell is in their book? That I've seen a lot of questionable things about. Now, to be clear, because I do believe that the imperialism, settler colonialism should be our forefront, and it should be our main argument. But man, I'm completely turned off Judaism. I'm gonna say it. I believe that there's something toxic in there. Maybe it went off the rails. Maybe they was misled and led off the cliff by a corrupt leader. That always happens. Maybe you can analyze history and see what went wrong. But to me, it's clear that it's some sort of barbaric ideology that normalized devaluing the lives of humanity. But I understand if you guys don't want to go down that route.
You know, Nick, I personally not really versed about religions, but I have seen countless footage, let's say, for a long time. When I was a kid, for example, the Intifada, which now it's a terrifying term. I will just give me 10 seconds and I will come back because it's very important.
Yeah, no worries. I'll just keep talking for you guys. I think it's very important for us to not, and this is what the Nick Fuentes and these people do, they make it about the Jews. It's not about the Jews. It's because we're going to get into this a little bit later. There's Muslim Zionism, because you have all these Muslims in the Middle East who enable the Israeli project. Then you have the Christian Zionists in the United States that is the largest driver of Zionism. So, guys, I'm not making it about religion because it's supported by the entirety of these large Western religions who support the Zionist state. What I'm talking about, because it's not about religion generally, is what the hell are they teaching in Judaism? What the hell are they teaching in these Israeli schools that is leading to these genocidal thoughts? But go ahead, Kevork. I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, no. For example, when I was there are always moments or footage which radicalize you, right? So you get really angry. And imagine you are a child, 12 years old child, and watching this footage on your TV outlets back then, Israeli soldiers carrying stones, rocks, and breaking the bones of Palestinian children on footage. And then they allow their German shepherds, the dogs, to go after children and bite them. So, like, you see that one side is throwing basically stones on the Israeli occupation forces, and the other side is breaking their bones. They have guns, they have bulldozers, they have dogs, etc. So you see, like, I'm born and raised in Syria. I'm an ethnic Armenian. I'm Christian. And I don't see this as a religious conflict. But when you see what's happening, you have to ask yourself, why? Why are they acting in this barbaric way? What is the source of this barbarism? You know, it's really heart-itching to see this type of footage. And now that the Gaza onslaught started, right? And especially that, oh, you live in Germany, like I live in Germany. And it's very difficult here to show any sympathy, human sympathy, to the Palestinians. Like, people are losing their jobs, their bank accounts are being closed, they're getting sanctioned by the EU for speaking up. Now, in the United States, there are little bit more, let's say, freedom of speech compared to Europe. In the United States, it's still some free speech exists there. But what I am noticing is what Trump is doing is dividing his own base, right? In the MAGA base or in the pro-Trump base, you have people considerable number of people are opposing Israel. And Trump is like, it's like going against them. He's even attacking some of the people who supported him in the past for now becoming more, let's say, anti-Israeli. What Trump is doing definitely going to change the outcome of the next elections. Like when you see this situation in the United States, Trump MAGA base is being cracked. Trump is showing himself probably the most Zionist president in the history of the United States. What could happen in 3 years or 2.5 years when we have new elections? Can some new candidate emerge from this MAGA base, who is more anti-Israeli, let's say, or let's say a little bit in the middle, or the system is rigged and it's a hopeless situation where whoever comes, the system will swallow the candidate and they will force him into the system and he will be forced to follow this type of foreign policy?
Yeah, this is what I'm doing right now. I'm post-duopoly. I'm a strong believer of building third parties that advocate unapologetically for the working class. I think we should have an anti-imperialist, pro-working class, populist third party. And what I'm doing is picking up the people who are falling off the pendulum. What we need in the United States is a third-party movement that grabs people who fall off the pendulum. What do I mean by that? The United States electoral system is essentially pro wrestling. It is as fake as the WWE. And it's weird, like whenever you see people talk about electoral politics as if it matters. Can you imagine if someone was talking about a match between Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, but they were talking about it like it was a real boxing match? Like, can you imagine if someone talking about Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, but it was commentating like it was a UFC heavyweight real fight? That is what people sound like to me when they talk about electoral politics as if it's real. So let me explain to you guys how this system actually works. It's very important for the two-party system for the pendulum to keep swinging. It is bad when one faction of the ruling class is in party for one time, for too long. So when you have George W. Bush Jr. in charge, his job was to destabilize the Middle East, continue the plan to invade Iraq, invade many countries in the Middle East. His plan to start the imperial action, even if he's massively unpopular. So George W. Bush starts the Iraq war, destabilizes the Middle East, and he becomes so unpopular, the United States elects a black guy named Barack Obama. So Barack Obama is in a unique position where he can radically change United States politics. He has the political will, the political capital, and he won the election at that point, one of the biggest margins of all time. But what do he do? He bail out the banks in Wall Street, collapse black wealth, and then expands George W. Bush's 2-war to 7. He extends the Patriot Act, extends George W. Bush's tax cuts. Essentially, and in his own words, governs like a Republican. So what's the result of Barack Obama doing this? An entire generation leaves the Democratic Party. We were pissed off with the Democratic Party. So what happens after that? It's just like WWE. The storylines never end. It's fake as shit. You get this guy who the establishment propped up, who was on The Apprentice. And they know he's loyal, Kevork. I know a lot of people may be nervous about whether he's anti-establishment or not, but don't worry. He married his daughter off to a Zionist. His daughter married Jared Kushner. So he showed his blood loyalty to the establishment. So they can let him be president. Donald Trump becomes president, and he fucks shit up the first term. Become completely unpopular. Just when you think the Democrats couldn't recover from the Barack Obama disappointment, Donald Trump comes in and rehabilitates the Democratic Party, and Joe Biden wins. So then Donald Trump, one of the most historically unpopular presidents in American history, what did the Democratic Party do to bail out the Republican Party after falling behind the MAGA code? What do they do in order to revive the Republican Party after losing to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? That's how down bad the Republican Party is. They committed genocide.
Right. Yep.
You guys see how both parties work together to keep one strong. And then as the Democrats commit a genocide and Democrats become weaker than ever because of that, Donald Trump takes charge and he completely refuses to release the Epstein list, continues Biden's policy in Ukraine. So his job to demoralize the MAGA base now. So I know that was a long spill, Kevork, but what do we do in this situation? Go back to what I said in the beginning of this rant. Our job is to take people who fall off the pendulum. So every time there are these pendulum swings, whenever there's this betrayal, it's our job as revolutions to catch people and bring them down off that pendulum so they don't keep going back and forth. So if you're one of the people who was disappointed by Joe Biden, my job was to grab your ass and bring you to the populist left. And there's many people who became that because they were disenfranchised and they was upset over Biden genocide. Now we're in a position where we're grabbing those MAGA people who are pissed off over Donald Trump. And there's a lot of people upset with me because I talked to Jake Shields, but that's exactly what I was doing. Jake Shields voted for Trump twice, and his audience was upset with Trump. So it's our job as people who are serious revolutionaries who want to build their party. We're now grabbing the MAGA people off that pendulum. Stop falling for this two-party game and get serious about revolution. So sorry for that long spill, but that's how I feel about U.S. politics. It's a giant fake-ass game that people who are serious about improving people's material life, we got to take advantage of the fact that these politicians will inevitably betray their supporters, and we got to be there for them and offer them a solution.
Indeed. Just a quick comment about Jake Shields. He also had me on his show a few months ago during the regime change operation. And I'm grateful because we are on different sides in politics, let's say on the spectrum, as I mentioned at the beginning. But he was a good listener. And he invited me and he said, I'm genuinely interested to learn. Come and educate me and educate my my audience. So I respect people who are genuinely, let's say, interested in listening to other points of view, especially that he should be considered one of the patriotic American citizens, right? And then if you go back 20 years in time, people like Jake Shields were like, we're going to occupy Iraq and we're going to, carrying the American flag. But things are also changing in the United States. And this is very noticeable to the extent that now that the issue of Palestine and Gaza is essential in the discourse of the political discussions and conversations online and also in the streets of the United States. Now, I'm going to show you this tweet, which proves our point that the issue of Palestine is very essential. Not this one. Marco Rubio, basically, he declared on X that they are imposing sanctions. Today, I'm imposing sanctions on UN Human Rights Council Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese for her illegitimate and shameful efforts to prompt international criminal court action against US and Israeli officials, companies, and executives. Albanese's campaign of political and economic warfare against the United States and Israel will no longer be tolerated. We will always stand by our partners in their right to self-defense. The United States will continue to take whatever actions we deem necessary to respond to lawfare and protect our sovereignty and that of our allies. This is disgusting beyond belief. Like, it's an Orwellian word, up is down, down is up, like right is left, left is right. Everything is upside down. Calling this like a warfare, meanwhile, children are being blown up by actual bombs. And this is a war against the United States and Israel. It's mind-boggling.
So they're waging the war against Francesca for calling out Israel's crimes. Meanwhile, they're friendly with Jelani, who's a former terrorist, and removed him from the terrorist list. What does that say about the priorities of the West? I explained on RBN how there is a genocidal psychosis that have completely swept over the West, especially the ruling bourgeoisie class, where they are straight up using their power and their authority to go after anyone who challenges their genocide, who tries to hold them accountable, which is why I push back against the natural human instinct of using fear to give the ruling class more power. The ruling class always use fear to give them more power. This is why I speak out against police states.
Yep.
I think there's legitimate ways you can provide public safety without police states. A lot of countries have figured it out. And people who think I'm crazy don't realize that the ruling class have the same position, but in the exact opposite. Mm-hmm. So the ruling class, they believe in a relaxed, laissez-faire interpretation of the law when it comes to the ruling class. Yes. But when it comes to the workers in the peasantry, they believe in harsh authoritarian law and order. Where because I study history and I know the most violent crimes, the biggest financial crimes is committed by the ruling class, I advocate for the exact opposite. Where I advocate for a laissez-faire, relaxed interpretation of law and a lot of grace given to workers who make mistakes. But I believe in harsh interpretation of the law against the ruling class. Yes. So you're not going to see anyone in China pulling out some Epstein shit. You know what I mean? This is why the West is morally decadent. This is why we have a ruling class that is deranged, because they don't believe in holding each other accountable in the ruling class because they are gods. That's why you can have a fucking yacht where you sex traffic children to and fuck them there. That's why the Catholic Church, who don't pay any taxes, by the way, in the United States, they're allowed to have a sex trafficking ring and get completely away with it. What they do, charge a handful of bishops? They had a giant, complicated sex trafficking ring that many government leaders were in on. And you guys notice how none of these people are held accountable? But they want some person who shoplifted a piece of candy because they're hungry. They want the books thrown at them. Yep. You know what I mean? I think we need to colonize our mind and twist the way we think about the law. And the reason why a lot of people call socialists and communists, they would say I'm authoritarian, Kevork. Even though China has less people in prison than the United States, despite having 4 times more people. Why do they call us authoritarian, Kevork? Why do they call us, they accuse us of doing what they're doing? Because we advocate for holding them accountable. Cuba held their slave owners accountable. So the capitalist class, they want freedom to enslave the masses, to engage in war crimes. And then if you go after them for committing crimes, you're an authoritarian communist. No, it's literally enforcing the law. China has anti-corruption laws, and I advocate for strong anti-corruption laws against the ruling class. And if they break those laws, we need to go after them. The same way they go after Francesca, the same way they go after the ICC. You guys see how they play the game. We need to wise up and play the same game that they're playing. But go ahead.
Yeah. This is the thing with Francesca Albanese, that she's a United Nations employee and doing her job, basically, is to report on the human rights abuses in Gaza. And if I'm saying it is permissible now to sanction an employee of the UN for reporting on the facts, whether it's in Gaza or elsewhere, then there is no need for the UN. And there is no need for international law and regulations, and there is no rules-based international order. Look, I said this for a very long time, and people called me conspiracy theorist. There are many human rights organizations as well, and they report factually on some cases, and they sensationalize some of other cases. Let's say they report objectively on all countries, right? What happened basically is that these human rights organizations, they report, let's say, about Syria, right? So there were human rights abuses, let's say, from the Assad government. So they report about it, or they document it. What happens is this report is going to be used by the UN, by the US, by major, let's say, European countries to impose sanctions on Syria and the economy, to impoverish the people for the sake of regime change operation, not for the human rights abuses. So they use these reports for imperialist reasons.
Yeah.
Now flip the issue. Let's suppose now this same human rights organization is reporting about some human rights abuses committed by American forces or Israeli forces. What way does this type of report have in the context of these geopolitical conflicts? Zero, none, because the US and Israel and its allies are immune, and you cannot really question them and you cannot hold them accountable. So whether they are criticizing the empire or not, it's completely irrelevant, because these reports are only used to condemn other countries and to have tangible change in these countries that are not evolving or revolving under the umbrella of the United States. So in this case, when someone like Francesca Albanese, she's reporting the facts in Palestine, and she's an employee from the UN, in the UN. When she takes one step further into criminalizing Israel and the United States officials, they will come after her like they're doing at the current moment, and they will impose sanctions. Therefore, what are we really defending here if there is no international law and norms and regulations? This is a serious question. If I'm a person who was born in a third world country, right, and my country could be completely blown up and hundreds of thousands of people would be killed because they say we are going to bring you human rights to your country, but then when a serious investigator talks about the human rights abuses by Israel in Palestine, and she will be sanctioned. So what is it? Jungle-based order? We spoke about the jungle at the beginning, but this is not there is no international law. This is what it means.
Yeah, it's very blackpilling, and it's very sad when you realize, and I came to this conclusion a while ago, that international law and human rights are largely fake. When you realize that the West use human rights as a way to attack regimes they want to see overthrown. For example, they would have USAID working unauthorized in a country. Then whenever someone like Nicolas Maduro say, USAID is obviously a CIA cutout, get out of our country, you are stripping us of our sovereignty. Then liberals will turn around and say, hey, look, Nicolas Maduro just kicked out USAID. Nicolas Maduro is violating human rights. So it's very sad when you realize that human rights was always used as a tool of imperialism. And the current generation of the ruling class, they despise the concessions that the previous generation of the ruling class made to peace, to, like, for example, the Genocide Convention, the Geneva Convention. You can tell that Benjamin Netanyahu, people like Marco Rubio, the Mike Pompeos, they look back at the previous generation of the ruling class and they are like, are you guys out of your fucking minds? For saying that we should have these rules that we should follow? Don't you realize that these quote unquote rules are only used as a way to attack African countries, black countries, and brown countries? The idea that we will ever support such a thing is absurd. So now they are tossing out all the rules of war that we agreed to before, and they are essentially living in a lawless way. They use human rights, like you already see them attacking Ibrahim Traore. They say, oh, he's violating human rights. That's what they use. That's what they do as a way to sell regime change operations and imperialist meddling to the liberal class. Because it's easy to sell to conservatives. They're all about rah, America should dominate. But you need to find a way to sell imperialism to the rising, in the 70s and 80s, you have these hippies. You had the rise of the boomer hippies, the people who believe in love, justice, and human rights. So how do you sell war to them? Iran is attacking women. Women don't have rights in Iran. Women don't have rights in Syria. How's
the situation of the women now after the regime change in Syria? Are they following how many women are being kidnapped on daily basis? And this is what they have pushed for. And this is what they have pushed for. And they, the problem is so many also talking heads legitimize this. And now that women are being literally enslaved, like this is like a sex slavery, they're silent. No, I don't hear about intervention, regime change operation because women are being persecuted in Syria. As you said, all this human rights talk is for geopolitical purposes. They don't give a damn about human rights, women rights, children rights, nothing. These people only care about their pockets and the empire's well-being and the expansion of their soldiers all around the world and recycling the money thanks to this type of wars. I just want to say something, guys. Thank you, Red Axis, for moderating the chat. I know that you probably didn't see that comment. And here, guys, we are having a civilized conversation. Everybody is welcomed. All opinions are welcomed. I don't even see left or right or center. Everybody can express his opinions. But if you're unable to, I'm not talking to all of you. Some people are just not able to make a civilized conversation, right? And they're coming here to swear and create a very toxic environment that I see some people, for example, or one person, he was calling names to Nick, right? So I draw the line. And I don't want people to come just to swear and then I see fight in the live chat. We are discussing here among each other to learn. I learned from Nick, and because of his experience and because of his perspective. And then I go to his show also to speak about things that I been following more closely, right? So we complement each other, and this is why the alternative media exists. And we're not here a mainstream media. We don't create an echo chamber. We host people. So sometimes I receive people, they are considered far right. And I receive backlash in the comments, people saying, why did you host the far right? And then I host someone who's considered a far left. People are like, why did you host the far left? He's a socialist. Yes, that's why this channel exists. Otherwise, you know Fox News and you know CNN. Each one has its own audience and each one has its own guests. But this is not the purpose of the alternative media. If we do the same thing the mainstream media does, then this entire project of citizen journalism and alternative media has become just like the mainstream.
Yeah, absolutely. And for all the people who was criticizing me, I promise I'll win you over one day. I promise I will. There's so many people who are like, Nick, I'm sorry I went after you, but I promise you I'll win you over one day.
Go open your own YouTube channel. Go open your own YouTube channel and call out Nick and prove him wrong. How about that?
I promise you, you might hate me now, but you will turn around. Like, if you're good faith, you will turn around. And if you don't, that's okay. I'm not above criticism. You guys see how hard I go after people? Like, I expose people. I ratio people. I expose the fraudulent DSA. There's countless politicians I expose. So I know that there are going to be some people go after me too. Like, what? I'm not a bitch. Like, I can't call out other people and then get mad that people call out me too. So I think I can handle it. Like, I'm in the trenches. I want to debate and talk to anyone. And if you hate me now, I promise you I will win you over. It may take a little bit, may take a year, may take 2, maybe take 5, but I promise you I'll win you over one day. I promise you.
I have a very good instinct, and in German they say Bauchgefühl, like the feeling of your belly. And when I feel comfortable with you, I know if I meet you in real life, we will get along. And which means that in my perspective, you're a good person. So I don't care what they say. I'm just drawing the line. You know, you can criticize his opinion. That's totally allowed. But don't call him names or attack in an absurd way. But you had a very interesting debate with Shahid Bolson, and you called Jolani a Muslim Zionist. And he disagreed with you, and you were shocked that he disagreed with you. And I made an entire 1-hour show because of that debate that you had, and it was hilarious. And I wanted to invite him to my show. I sent him a DM a few months ago. And then I noticed some pattern in his videos, basically trying to whitewash Saudi Arabia's role in the region. And I said, there is something fishy about it. But you called Jolani a Zionist. Muslim Zionist. How do you see now that the Israeli reports indicate that he will come to Washington, D.C., in New York first, to the UN General Assembly meeting, and then he will go to the White House and he will sign a deal with Netanyahu. If he is not an Arab Zionist or a Muslim Zionist, then what is he?
Let's just say I feel extremely vindicated for that, for the conversation I had with you. I feel very vindicated for my Syria analysis ever since I started as a citizen journalist. And remember, like people like Kevork, they are a giant backbone of my knowledge on Syria. I seen what people on the ground were saying, and I just Syria is not like Palestine. Like Palestine is super easy to understand. Like Syria, for Westerners, is a little bit more confusing because there are a lot of honestly, there are a lot of Arabs and Muslims who make this shit complicated for us because there are a lot of Arabs who were cheering for the downfall of Assad. And I was looking at this as, once again, I was very humble. I was trying to be very open-minded when I cover Syria as someone who's not from Syria. But just looking at it, and I guess the fact that I'm detached from the area helped me look at it more strategically. For people who may just have Assad derangement syndrome, they may have they probably was done wrong by the Assad government, which I understand why they may be distrustful of Assad because they may have a personal experience that may cloud their judgment. So me being outside of Syria, I was able to analyze it objectively. Well, I'm like, objectively, it would be horrific if Assad was overthrown. It seems like the CIA and the Zionist regime wants Assad overthrown more than anything else because he provided a shipping route for weapons for the resistance. He was supportive of the resistance. So I understood, and I try to be very sensitive to the fact I don't live there, that I know that there may be people who don't dislike Assad, but it was clear that supporting this Muslim Zionist revolution was not the solution to any issue that people may have with Assad. So I had Shahid Bolson on, and I had the same way I have you on, Kevork. I had Syrian Girl. I talked to people from China. I talked to people in Russia. I had people on from Moscow, the UK. I had people on from France, from Betron. I had my brother Nico House from Brazil. I'm honestly blessed, guys, that I'm in a position where I talk to people from all over the world. So I had Shahid Bolson on from Middle Nation, and I knew and something would come up because we had him on 2 times, right? And he was one of the people that like, hey man, I need to know exactly what we're gonna talk about on the show. Like, if you guys know RBN, my RBN is very conversational. Where I'll have a skeleton, I'll have main stories, but I'm down. I'm gonna ask you whatever I feel like asking. We're gonna cover whatever comes in conversation. But Shahid was weird because he like, hey man, his person was like, hey man, you gotta make sure you submit all your questions beforehand. We gotta know exactly what it. So that was already kind of weird. Like me and Zoya, we was already kind of weird dealing with people. We was like, oh, that's weird. That's kind of weird. Now I know why. I know why they screen question now because I kind of broke. I was like, man, I'm not doing that fucking shit. I'm gonna ask him whatever I want for his last appearance. And I asked him about Syria. Not because I was trying to have a big gotcha moment. Not because I was trying to have a debate. I'm just assuming this guy obviously knows that supporting the CIA-backed Zionist revolution is a bad thing. What Jelani is doing, persecuting and killing Syrian people, that's obviously a bad thing. And I was shocked to see that he was saying that Syria is stable. Israel and the United States is occupying Syria and stealing their resources.
1/3 of the country, 1/3, and 50% of its oil and gas. Imagine you call that instability.
So that's people like Shahid, and I'm not trying to go negative on him. I'm not. It is what it is.
No, we're not hating on him at all.
Yeah, people like him is why people are confused in the West.
Yes.
Like there's the reason why people who support free Palestine will also support free Syria, even though that was incomprehensible positions. That's why I had to call him out. Like, because on RBN, I'm not trying to yell at people and not a debate me bro channel, but we have to be factual. We have to be consistent. So that's why I had to call him out. And I'm glad that you covered it. I'm blessed and I'm honored that you covered it. Back to your question about Muslim Zionism. Even though I am extremely turned off of Judaism and I'm not hiding that, it's very important for us not to make the struggle about the struggle to free Palestine about religious struggle. The Zionists want nothing more but to make this a religious struggle. So that it makes people more factionalized. It's easier to propagandize people if you make it about, are you for the Jews? Are you for the Muslims? Are you for the Christians who support the Jews? Are you for the Muslims? That's like the best thing that could possibly happen for a Zionist who cannot argue intellectually, morally, or legally for the justification of the state of Zionism. And the reason why people like Nick Fuentes and these legitimate white nationalists, the reason why they're useful idiots for the Zionist regime is because they are more than happy to make it about that. I hate the Jews. The Jews have taken over our society. The Jews. That's all they do, right?
Yes.
Ignoring that Christian Zionism is the number one enabler, funder, and implementator of Zionism in the world. If it wasn't for Christian Zionism, Zionism would be dead on arrival. But not only that, going back to your question about Muslim Zionists, what is Zionism? Like, what people got mad.
Who can define that? Who can define that? Any Israeli official doesn't want to define it because they want it to be in an open definition. So they could include anything which they could consider later anti-Semitism in it. If they draw a line and say this is Zionism, people know what they can criticize, right? But if they keep it fluctuate, something that is many people do not know how to define it, it doesn't have any parameters, then the Israeli side or the Israeli officials could include anything in it by calling it this is anti-Semitism because now you are attacking us because us are Jews.
Yeah, very well said. Zionism essentially is if you're an active supporter of the Jewish state, the legal Jewish state that was created by the British Empire.
Traditional definition.
There was a lot of progressives, and they still angry at me because I called out Mamdani. Because I'm like, guys, he's a fucking liberal Zionist. There's no free Palestine here. There's nothing here. You know what I mean? He's a liberal Zionist who said he believes in Israel's right to exist. That's what a Zionist is. So a Muslim Zionist is someone who lives in the Middle East, obviously is a Muslim, who helped facilitate the state of Israel. And that infected the entirety of the Arab ruling class in the Middle East. And in a nutshell, that's why it's ridiculous to just say, oh, the Jews doing this, because the quote-unquote Jews wouldn't be able to get away with what they get away with if it wasn't for Christian Zionists in the United States and many Muslim Zionists in the Middle East. And that's the point I was making. Hopefully that makes sense to this audience.
It totally makes sense, and I completely disagree with some of the American talking heads who say, "Oh, this is only about Israel. It's Israel dragging us into these wars. It's the Jews doing this for us." It's like, was there the AIPAC in the Korean War? Have the Jews brought you to Vietnam and to kill hundreds of thousands of people to drop Agent Orange? Yes, I understand in the Middle East, Israel has more influence over the foreign policy of Washington, but this is an empire in action. They're doing the same thing in Ukraine. They're trying to do the same thing in Taiwan. This is not the Jews only doing it. No, you have Zionist people, whether Jewish, Christian, and probably also Muslims now, influencing these type of policies to go to war for their financial interests. Bankers, we're having tens of billions of dollars to nowadays profits by the military industrial complex and many people with invested interest. So I wanted to make also this conclusion from the definition that Nick presented, because I totally disagree with this notion that it's Israel occupying the United States. It's an empire, and Israel part of this, one part of this empire, one leg of this empire. And people who try to make it all about Jews, they are running away from the responsibility and for the atrocities of the American officials, basically, who have committed all around the world. Guys, we are almost already 1 hour past. I didn't even feel this conversation. Yeah, Nick, really, thank you so much for coming to the show, brother. I really appreciate it. And guys, his YouTube channel is in the description below. Hit a follow and also see his content. What is he talking about? Agree, disagree, always stay respectful, as I said on this YouTube channel. That's really important. I just wanted to mention one last thing, that the channel is still suppressed after the warning we received from YouTube. I didn't receive yet an answer from them. And I would be really grateful if you only thumbs up, hit the like button before leaving this live streaming. And if you would like to do more, like support this channel independent work, you can become a patron, or there are different means in the description below. Nick, my friend, thank you so much again for coming to the show. I will send us to the back room. I will just play a video for the audience, which is Francesca Albanese talking about the Israeli atrocities. And after that, I will end the stream. You are set free, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, Kevork. This conversation flew by, and RBN, we are big supporters of you and your channel. And
thank you so much, bro. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate your work, and you're a big source for what I study and analyze in Syria. I'll make sure I always check out what you're talking about. So we support everyone at RBN, support Kevork and Syrian analysis. I appreciate you coming inviting me on. It was a great conversation. Make sure you guys follow us at Revolutionary Blackout Network, and make sure you guys get involved locally. Find a way to get involved. Don't allow the ruling class to separate and isolate us. They want us to be separated and isolated in our own little silos. Create your own organizations and be involved in the community and help lift each other's lives. Like, we can't allow ourselves to be drowned in doomerism. You know what I mean? Let's get involved. Let's get activated, and let's get to work. Thank you for having me on once again, Kevork.
Thank you, Nick. Peace, guys. Salam.
Thank you.
I address you today with a sense of foreboding that words can hardly capture. I no longer know what more can be said. 14 months ago, I warned that this genocide marked an escalatory stage of a long-standing settler colonial project over Asia, one that has targeted the Palestinian people for over 7 decades. And now, it is happening, and we must stop it. The situation in the occupied Palestinian territory is apocalyptic. In Gaza, people continue to endure suffering beyond imagination. Israel is responsible for one of the cruelest genocides in modern history. Official figures count over 200,000 killed or injured. Leading health experts estimate that true toll is far higher. As the cost to the Palestinian people grows, Israel has dismantled the last function of the UN in Gaza, humanitarian aid. Israel has used the genocide as an opportunity to test new weapons, customized surveillance, lethal drones, radar systems, and other unmanned technology to exterminate a population without restraint. While Elbit Systems wins Israeli Ministry of Defense Award for Innovation, Lockheed Martin and the global web of 1,650 other companies benefit from Israel flying the F-35 fighter jets for the first time in beast mode, carrying 4 times the ordnance, up to 22,000 pounds, than when operating in stealth mode. It is its very defenselessness that has made the people and the land of Palestine an ideal laboratory for the Israeli military-industrial complex. But in this context of Palestine, we are not talking about isolated specific incidents of wrongful conduct. The severity of the structural and sustained violations and crimes at issue has been confirmed by the International Court of Justice and has led to arrest warrants being issued by the International Criminal Court. In this context, what action could possibly be sufficient to rectify these violations and the corporate connections to them? The answer is simple. There is a prima facie responsibility on every state and corporate entity to completely abstain from or end their relationship with this economy of the occupation, especially as it has transformed into an economy of genocide. In the face of all this, too few have disengaged in the last 21 months. Armed companies have turned near-record profits by equipping Israel with cutting-edge weaponry to unleash 85,000 tons of explosives, 6 times the power of Hiroshima, on Gaza. Tech companies provide dual-use infrastructure that is utilized as a weapon of mass targeting and killing. The machinery of the global construction equipment giants is raising Gaza to the ground, preventing the return and reconstruction of Palestinian life. Global energy conglomerates have fueled these assaults with coal, oil, gas, while the same infrastructure has been deprived to the Palestinians. No water, no electricity, creating the conditions of life calculated to destroy. while major global banks have underwritten and purchased Israeli treasury bonds, bankrolling the devastation at a time of gaping military budget deficits and plummeting credit rating. The 40 entities named in my report, alongside their parent subsidiary licensees and franchisees, are just the tip of the iceberg, illustrative of this system that entangles many, many more. Let me say, member states must impose a full arms embargo on Israel, suspend all trade agreements and investment relations, and enforce accountability, ensuring that corporate entities face legal consequences for their involvement in serious violations of international law. And corporate entities must urgently cease all business activities and terminate relationships directly linked, contributing to, and causing human rights violations and international crimes against the Palestinian people. At this existential moment for the Palestinian people, trade unions, lawyers, civil society groups, and ordinary citizens should encourage such behavioral change from the side of corporate entities and governments by pressing for boycotts, divestment, sanctions, and accountability. What comes next depends on all of us, and I truly believe that together we can make it. It's not a question of if, it's just a question of when. Thank you.
Yep.